Hello, 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 world. This is your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And thank you all to all of my new subscribers. I really appreciate you. Much love. Please share. Please give your thumbs up. Please give it a like. And please continue to subscribe. This episode of my podcast is going to be about Black History Month being celebrated by none other than our president, Donald Trump, in the White House. Therefore, I wanted to elaborate on Black History Month, this particular Black History celebration, particularly since we are coming to the end of Black History Month. However, as I have said to everyone, I believe in celebrating Black History Month every day of the week or the month, 365 days of the year. With that said, I want to share with you the celebration, and I will be commenting throughout the celebration, giving you my perspective, so to speak. And again, I am Louise Hicks, and here we go. Let's celebrate Black History Month, February 2025. And here we go. It's at the White House, and we're going to talk about it. Here we go.
Thank you. Wow. This is some crowd. How are you? Thank you. Leo. This is some crowd. These are the best people, Tiger. And we have Adam Scott here also, winner of the Masters, one of the greatest golfers in the world. I've always tried to swing just like Adam. It never worked out that way. And Tiger, we know, and I just want to thank Adam and Tiger and the commissioner of golf is Jay. Thank you very much for being here. Jay Monahan, head of the PGA, and we had some interesting discussions. But let me ask you, is there anybody like our Tiger? How are you? He's the great. Would you want to just say a couple of words, Tiger? He doesn't. He's much more comfortable. Tiger.
Hey, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here with you, Mr. President, and to be on the road here with all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Love you too.
Go right over here. Thanks, Tiger. And I want to thank all of you very much for being here. Welcome to the White House, and we proudly celebrate Black History Month. How are you, darling? Today we pay tribute to the generations of Black legends, champions, warriors, and patriots who helped drive our country forward to greatness. And you really are great people. What a great, nice group of... I have some people in front of me every once in a while with all the problems that are caused all over the world. They're not nice. They're not nice. And but we're making them nice. I can tell you that, and we're making them nice rapidly. So we're pleased to be joined in this really beautiful afternoon at the White House by hundreds of incredible members of the African American community, many of whom are making history themselves, including one of the greatest athletes of all time, who you just said hello, the man who matched Sam Snead's #1 record for the most PGA Tour wins ever, and a man who has 15 majors, and he's got a long way to go, too. I was with him a week ago. We played. Adam, I think he's got some left, doesn't he, huh? He's got a couple of majors left, maybe more than that. But Tiger Woods, he's an incredible guy, an incredible athlete, incredible player. Thank you for being with us, Tiger. Thank you very much. And he got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which he proudly wore today. And we have Senator Tim Scott here. What do you think, Tim? You never got the Presidential Medal. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. You better believe it. And also, Adam, thank you very much. Adam is, as Tiger will tell you, one of the greatest players and one of the great modern players. And he had 32 wins worldwide and winning the Masters also. And he's something very special and a great representative of golfers and athletes. Thank you very much, Adam. Even though he doesn't quite come from our country, he sort of does, right? He's here a lot. He comes from another nice place like Australia, right? And they've been very good, very, very good to us. Jay, thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. We also have the head of Pfizer here, so I want to thank him. One of the great people, one of the great businessmen. Thank you, Albert. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to congratulate our newly sworn-in Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Scott Turner. Come in. I gotta say hello. Come on up here, Scott. I had Tim Scott pushing him so hard, you have no idea. I had no choice. Is that right, Tim? No, Scott is, I've known him a long time, and Scott's a real champion. Say a couple of words, Scott, please.
Well, hello, everyone. Is everybody happy to be here together? Is everybody happy to be here together? Amen. Well, first of all, I want to thank President Trump for his confidence and appointing me to this position. I consider it a great honor and a great blessing. And I thank God for this, and I'm real humbled by it. And you can guarantee that every day that I'm going to lay it down for the people of America. As Senator Tim Scott, thank you for your leadership. I really appreciate you. And for all of those who have gone before us, and those of you who have such a great voice today, keep on speaking, keep on preaching for not just Black America, but for all America. So we appreciate you. And my sister, Brooke Rollins, and all of those here, Mr. President, we look forward to working with you, sir, and carrying out this great agenda. We pray for you every day. God bless you, and thank you. God bless America. Thank you for President Trump. Thank you.
Okay, I want to stop sharing just for a moment, and I'm going to go back because I just wanted to shed a little historical light on the newly appointed, I should say, Secretary of HUD, Housing and Urban Development, which I'm happy about President Trump putting on this event at the White House in celebration of Black History Month. And some of the things that he's doing, I think they're just great because some of it is necessary. And I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I feel are necessary, and particularly as it relates to the healthcare industry. And I'd like to see what will be done, particularly in the whole medical industry, mental health, and just the whole industry, because it is corrupt. And I'd like to see what the newly appointed secretary is going to do in terms of healthcare, Robert Kennedy Jr. And that's something that I just wanted to just throw a little punch in there. So the Secretary of HUD, Scott Turner, I had not heard of him, so I thought I'd do a little research on who he really is. And hopefully he will do something, because I have stories I can tell you about HUD. And HUD has not been great when it comes to Black people because of all the discriminatory practices that have gone on over the years in housing and urban development. And I can share with you my story, but however, as you all know that know me and know how I speak up and speak out, I have no problem with talking about the discrimination that I've gone through in housing. And I know what it was all about, skin color. So therefore, I'm hoping that Scott Turner, who was a Texas representative, he was in the Texas House, I guess the 33rd district, from what I understood when I did some research. So I'm just happy to see, I believe he's the only black in the cabinet, which we'll see how he does. See if he makes any improvement in terms of housing and urban development. And he's a young black man, has a lot of history behind him, what he's done. He's a former football player as well, played in with the Buccaneers. I think it was the Buccaneers, I believe. He's a motivational speaker. Uh, no, I don't think it was the Buccaneers. I think it was the Washington Redskins, the San Diego Chargers, and the Denver Broncos. It may have been the Buccaneers too. Anyhow, you can look that up because I may have been mistaken on that one. Anybody can correct me if he never played with them. But he has a pretty long history of doing some things that have been historical. And I congratulate him on his appointment. So, with that said, let's get back to sharing and see what else is going to come up. And then I will talk a little bit more about history since this is Black History Month, the time to speak up and speak out.
Congratulations. And I see we have a newly, I think you just got in, right? They just confirmed you, and you did it very nicely. Brooke Rollins, she's the Secretary of Agriculture. It's a big deal. That's great, Brooke. That was a good vote you had, too, huh? She went through very easily, a little easier than some of our people, but they were all approved, every one of them. And today we just had Kash Patel approved, which is great. So, Brooke, congratulations. Secretary of Agriculture, that's big stuff, right? That's big. So you're going to do fantastically. And congratulations also to a really good friend of mine. He endorsed me early, and he was one of the best surrogates you could have. The surrogate is when you walk around and go on television shows, and they go try and beat you up, but he beat them up. They didn't have a chance against Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. And he's now the longest-serving black United States senator in the history of our country. I don't know. That's pretty good. And he's going to be around for a long time, right? He just got married. Congratulations on that, too. Beautiful, beautiful wife. Thanks as well to Congressman John James. Where's John James? Is he around? Hi, John. How are you? It's a star, young star. I knew that 5 years ago, right, John? I sort of predicted it. And I'm really proud to say that we now have more black Republicans serving in the U.S. House than at any time since 1870. That's a long time, 1870. So thank you very much. And Scott, you're going to be fantastic. I'll tell you, you're going to do a great job. As you know, the Americans are going to be celebrating something very important coming up, our 250th anniversary, our nation's founding. And when we do, we're going to look forward to honoring the contributions of countless black Americans who fought to win and protect and expand American freedom from the very, very beginning. And some of my good friends are here today, and I appreciate you being. I'm not going to call out your names because Tiger will get very bored. He'll say, this is a little boring. This is a little boring if we do that. But I want to thank you all for being here. You are our friends, and we appreciate this. And you, McGee, you are my friend. The last administration tried to reduce all of American history to a single year, 1619. But under our administration, we honor the indispensable role black Americans have always played in the immortal cause of another date, 1776. We like 1776. In the very first skirmish of the Revolutionary War at Lexington Green, an enslaved black man named Prince Estabrook, you know Prince Estabrook? Yeah. Answered history's call and fought as the Minutemen alongside the other patriots of the very small Massachusetts town. Couldn't protect itself, but they did a good job. Prince was wounded in the early morning battle, becoming not only the first African-American soldier to fight in the Revolution, but among the very first Americans to spill their blood. One of the first in the nation to spill blood in that very, very tough time. Soon Estabrook joined the Continental Army and ultimately won his own freedom along with that of his fellow Americans. His legacy will endure, and we're very proud to honor him today. It's a very important day in our country, and we honor him. First person to spill blood happened to be Tim Estabrook. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we will be including the statue of Prince Estabrook in our new National Garden of American Heroes. We're going to be doing a garden.
Okay, I'm going to stop right here. And I want to shed some light on history because I'm listening to this and I'm getting the feeling that this is more symbolic than anything else. And as Black people in this country and our forefathers and mothers who built this country, it's amazing how President Trump glossed over 1619, but said we like 1776. And let's do some history here because he's building it up as if the previous administration only focused on 1619. And that was, to me, this is my perspective, 1619 was more significant in our history than 1776. And I'm going to tell you why. And if you go back and do your history lesson, if you're on the same page that I'm on, I believe you will feel the same way. And he said, President Trump, we like 1776, as if you are excluding the history of slavery, chattel slavery from 1619, 1619, over 200 years of slavery. And you're talking about you like the American Revolutionary War, 1776, which slaves fought in that war to help free America, which was called United Colonies. If I'm not mistaken, it was called United Colonies at that time. It wasn't called the United States of America. They didn't even have a president at that time. They had a Congress, but no president. And as I listened to President Trump, basically is what this country is trying to erase our history, the history of slavery, and broaden the American Revolutionary War, where Black people fought in this war to help free America from Britain. And guess what happened after they fought in it? They were promised freedom. But did they get freedom? No, because we're talking about 1776, and the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1865. So actually, it was signed in 1863. And slavery was abolished on December the 6th, 1865. And it brought about the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment. I mean, and he's standing there trying to erase the history from my perspective and provide all these symbolic aspects that you're going to put these heroes, and he's going to go through and talk about the heroes in the National Garden of American Heroes. And that's basically what Black people have gotten over the years. Symbolism. When are we going to see some tangibles, the debt that is owed, reparations to the descendants of all of these slaves who went through all kinds of atrocities, rapes, castrations, hangings, men and women? And he's not talking about that. It's as if our history is trying to be erased here. The critical race theory, they don't even want it to be taught in the schools. And in the state of Texas, some years ago, They even classified slaves as interns, and they were going to teach that in the schools. Why are we, the Black people who are at this event, you're here glorifying what is going on here, and as if you want to wipe out your history. And I teach my children our history because we need to know. And it's ironic how you want to ignore over 200 years of slavery in America where Black people were tortured, African that came here forcefully, not voluntarily. Yet you never talk about abolishing or glossing over Jewish history, and that didn't take place on American soil. It took place in Germany. And the Jewish people would not allow you to. And we need to wake up and not allow that as well. I admire them for not allowing you to do that, even though it didn't happen on American soil. But however, reparations have been given to Jewish people. Go back and do your research, and you will find out. I believe it was under the Obama administration, your Democratic president. This is why I cleared myself of the Democratic Party when I was in my 30s, and I became an independent because I saw where both parties were headed, really, all of the parties. They're all really basically just two heads of one snake. And it depends on who will tell the most lies when it comes to Black people in this country. And it's appalling when we know the history of what our ancestors went through, the blood, sweat, and tears that they shed just to be free. And if we were so free, why are we out here still fighting for freedom? Why did we have to have a 1964 Civil Rights Act? Why did we have to have the 13th and 14th Amendment? Why was when this Constitution was founded, Black people were not even considered a whole human being? I mean, this is about Black History Month. So let's be truthful. Let the truth be told. Because 1776, what came out of that, excuse me, Revolutionary War was July the 4th. Who got their freedom? Black people didn't. As I just stated, Black people were allegedly freed by the proclamation, the Emancipation Proclamation that was signed in 1863, and slavery was abolished on December the 6th, 1865. Now you're talking 1776 when these slaves were allowed to help free America, yet America did not free the slaves. So we have to go back in history and look at how, as Malcolm X stated, how we're being bamboozled. And it's still happening to this day. Listen at this. This is 2025, and we're celebrating Black history, and we are just glossing over 1619, which is more significant than 1776 from a Black perspective, because Black people were not freed. It was white people that were freed. It was white people that were given land to do whatever they pleased to do, not Black people. Black people were whipped and beaten and raped and castrated and hung, having picnics with whites, having their children to look at Black people being hung. That was what they called picnic, or better yet, they coined it pick a nigger. So we need to know our history, and our children need to know our history. And it is appalling to me to listen to President Trump. Like I said, I agree with some of the things he's done, but this one to me is an insult from what he just said. and you're going to give a national garden of American heroes. And he's going to tell you the heroes that, if this garden ever comes about, that will be in this garden. So, with that said, the 4th of July was what came out of the Revolutionary War, where the American colonies became independent from Britain. Slaves were still enslaved, they were still beaten, still castrated, still hung, treated worse than dogs. And there is a Black gentleman who said he was born back in, I'll share that video with you as well. In fact, it's on my Facebook page. And I don't know whether he's still alive today because I think the video was a few years ago. He was about to be 100, I believe. And he shares stories in the 20th century. And he said Blacks were treated less than dogs. And he's telling the truth because in my lifetime, I've seen Black people being treated worse than dogs in the 60s. I was born in 51. And I'm about to be 74 years of age on March 4th. And I've seen a lot and I've experienced a lot. So July the 4th was not an Independence Day celebrated for Black people. So we need to know our history so we don't allow these lies to be perpetual. So with that said, let's get back to the video and hear what else President Trump has to say.
Of American heroes. And now that I think of it, I must tell you, sadly, most of them, I guess all of them, are not with us any longer. I was going to put Tiger in the garden, but maybe you don't want to be there. I maybe should wait a little bit, huh? Like about 50. I think I'm going to wait about 50 years, all right? But Tiger's going to make it, okay? But I'm a little afraid to tell him yes, because he'd be the only one that's living. I don't know, Tiger. Tiger's rejecting that offer, right? Under the executive order I signed last month, this new beautiful outdoor statue park. It's going to be a statue park. It's going to be unbelievable. We're picking the final sites now. It's between various states that want it very badly. Will honor hundreds of our greatest Americans to ever live, including countless Black Americans, icons. The garden will predominantly feature incredible women like Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, and Coretta Scott King. And I will showcase it will be something very extraordinary. It's going to be producing, we're going to produce some of the most beautiful works of art in the form of a statue from men like Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, Jackie Robinson, what a great athlete that was, Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad Ali, he's not a bad athlete. What do you think, Muhammad? Not too bad. And the late Kobe Bryant. People love Kobe Bryant. And we're going to save Tiger Woods for another time. That's all that I can. I'm sorry. During Black History Month, we pay tribute to these heroes and to so many others, but not simply because they're Black heroes, but also because they are truly American heroes who inspire all of us, very much so. The theme of this year's celebration is African Americans and labor. And we want to thank all of the Black workers, construction workers, and every other worker. They do a job like nobody can do, and we want to just thank them very much for their contribution. Tim, the contribution you've made, Tim, is incredible. Opportunity Zone, so many people, so many. He's the father of Opportunity Zone. I'm just the son. He's the father, because he came into the White House, the Oval Office, with this idea. And it's probably the #1 economic development project ever in our country. And I want to give Senator Tim Scott the credit for it. Good job, Tim. Of course, millions of Blacks were first brought here in slavery, and they were kept in that evil condition for really generations. But because of the steadfast faith and courage of so many patriots of all colors, we abolished that horrific institution, expanded civil rights, and advanced America's destiny as one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Just a few months ago, the people in this room and millions of other black Americans played their own part in the American story when you went to the voting booths and restored a nice, good, solid government. And there's a guy that really helped. There's a man that really helped. You really are great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I don't forget. I'm proud to say that we received, listen to this, more votes from black Americans than any Republican president ever. Not even close. Almost 40% of the vote. Now, I won't be happy the next time. Should I run again? You tell me. There's your controversy right there. There's your controversy. Thank you. You'll be seeing that on you're gonna see that tonight, Tim, on television. I want to thank just a few of the people who are with us today, and these are great friends of ours. Alveda King. Alveda, where are you, Alveda? Hi, Alveda. Thank you. You've been with me from day one, and I appreciate it. I won't forget it. She's a fantastic woman. Alice Johnson. Where's Alice? Boy, are you incredible. I watched you on last night on television. You were so good. You know, Alice was in prison for doing something that today probably wouldn't even be prosecuted. She spent 22 years in prison, 22 years. She had another 22 years left. Can you believe it? And I pardoned her, and it was one of the best pardons. One of the best pardons. You know what she was on? She happened to be on the wrong telephone line. Is that true? She was on a telephone call. And I'm not saying it was perfect, but it wasn't worth 40 or 50 years, Alice. And you've been an inspiration to people. And we're going to be listening to your recommendation on pardons. You're going to go over, and she's going to be my pardon czar, okay? And you're going to find people just like you that should not have happened. It should not have happened. So you're going to look and you're going to make recommendations, and I'll follow those recommendations, okay, for pardons, all right? Thank you very much. A man who's just incredible. This guy, I watched him when he was a Democrat, and then one day he had to change because he couldn't take it any longer. And did anyone ever hear of a man named Leo 2.0 Terrell? Where are you? Get up here. I love this guy. You know what he's doing now? He's with the Department of Justice. He's in charge of civil rights and lots of other great things. He's going to be working with Pam. It's okay. Could he come up, please? Come on, Leo. Get up here. Leo 2.0. This guy is great. Hello, man.
You are the greatest.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say we are in the presence of the greatest president of all time. He is the greatest president in our lifetime. And I'll tell you right now, the Democratic Party should be worried because they took us for granted. No longer. We vote in our best interest. We want the same thing that every American wants. Good job. We want a secure border. We want to pay lower taxes, and Mr. President Donald Trump is doing that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right here because I know a little bit about Leo Terrell. He's an attorney. He speaks out a lot. He's been on Fox News a lot. And I know him from California because I lived in California practically all of my life. Graduated from college, California State University in California with a bachelor's degree in social work. Worked in the county of Los Angeles for over 32 years, where I had to sue them because of their racially motivated discriminatory practice because they could not deal with in the county of Los Angeles now. After my college graduation, I started working with the county of Los Angeles, and their discriminatory practices were atrocious, where I had to go in pro per and sue them and won my case because he's an attorney. I was going to go to law school and be an attorney because basically being an attorney is about common sense, really, and learning how to put together your briefs and learning how to articulate whatever case you are uh, in in practice about. And I had to do this on my own, go in pro per, because that's what they call it in California, and practice law and won my case because of the discriminatory practices in the county of Los Angeles. And I'm sure is most likely still going on. So when you tell me about this is an attorney here, and I've heard a lot of his speeches, and I don't agree with most of the things that Leo Terrell says. Like I said, I have a law mind and was going to go to law school, but I chose to raise my daughter instead and my other children. They were practically grown when I decided to go, but I had my daughter at the time. And I decided that was more important to me than going to law school. However, I did practice law, and let me put a disclaimer out there. I only practiced law on myself because I did not have a the credentials that you have to have. I didn't go and get to the bar and get that part of it, but I was able to practice law on my own behalf and won. And I've done it in small claims in the state of Texas. I've done it in small claims in California, and I won every case in small claims except one. And that was really, excuse me, not a loss. It's just that they wanted me to do something that I wasn't willing to do. So I said it wasn't worth my time being wasted. And it had to do with home protection plans that I had already won multiple cases against them. So it's just one of those situations where I love law. And with Leo Terrell, he's the kind of lawyer that I would not hire because he has his own best interest from my perspective. He has his own best interest at heart, and he does not have Black people's interests at heart. So he would not be an attorney that I would hire based on my listening to him and from his perspective of my hearing him talk about various issues and aspects. And I believe he lives in California, if I'm not mistaken, but I know he was always talking. I remember that. And with that said, let's get back to, oh, before I get back, let's talk a little bit about who he's putting into this National Garden of American Heroes. And two people specifically I want to mention that he was putting in there. That's Rosa Parks. Now, he was talking about, excuse me, losing my voice. He was talking about Rosa Parks and how this war, the Revolutionary War, was so great. If it was, why was Rosa Parks not even allowed to sit down on a bus as a Black woman? She couldn't even go and sit down because of segregation. Jackie Robinson, they had to have a Black ball team, baseball, and other Black sports because Blacks were not allowed to play in white sports, which was okay because the Blacks formed their own leagues, Black ball. And they played so well until white people wanted them to play because lots of people were going to see the Black players because they were brilliant, as you can see. Look who won the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. And in the past, the Kansas City Chiefs had won with Mahomes. And the first Black to play in the Super Bowl was Doug Williams, a Black quarterback, the first quarterback to play in the Super Bowl, Doug Williams from the state of Louisiana, where I was born. So we need to learn our history and know our history when these people get here, including the president, and they don't do their research because they're dependent on what other Blacks who have their own self-serving interests are telling them. because I believe from what allegedly Tim Scott was basically responsible for this. And he's from, I believe, the senator from South Carolina. And he's self-serving as well. These politicians, most of them are self-serving. And politics itself is corrupt. So when I hear things like that, I don't put any stock in that when it comes to these presidents and the presidents, the vice presidents, the senators, the representatives, state representatives, because politics in itself is corrupt. And we have to start looking out for ourselves as Black people because we're all we have. And we got to stop allowing these so-called celebrities and entertainers to dictate our lives. We need to take control and design our own lives. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And President Trump said, inspiration for all of us. If this is so much inspiration for all of us, why is this country so divided? So we're listening to lies here. And I know about a lot of the lies because when I was a kid growing up in Louisiana, because I left right out of high school and spent all of my life practically in California, my mother wouldn't allow us to go and drink out of the fountains that said white and colored because we were considered colored people at the time. And one said white, one said colored. And my mother was ahead of her time. She passed away in 2015 at the age of 92. And she was outspoken as well. And I remember a situation when this is Black history I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the fake Black history as President Trump talks about fake news. Well, we're witnessing some sort of fake news here today when he's talking Black history. And we have to let the truth be told. I recall when I was about 5 years of age, I recall my mother picking cotton because they were sharecroppers. And they had a little white young teenage overseer out here overseeing the cotton pickers, my mother included. And to this little young white teenager, couldn't have been more than 19, maybe 20, all of these Black women were called Annie. Annie this, Annie that, Annie, Annie, Annie. Annie had to get an excuse to do whatever Annie needed to do from the little white overseer. So it was like basically back in slavery. The only thing was you just didn't have the chains shackled to you. So, like I said, I have some stories, and that was the 20th century, but I have stories in the 21st century that I could talk about. And my mother was the type of person that spoke up, and she told this little white young boy, I am not your Annie. My name is Mary. I'm sick and tired of you calling all of us colored women, because that's what they called themselves back then. All of us colored women, Annie. I am not your Annie. My name is Mary. Will you call me Annie? I vividly remember this myself, even though I was about 5 years old, because I could have been in kindergarten. However, we didn't have kindergarten as Black children growing up. But I was the type of person that wanted to learn. I was eager. So by the time I got in the first grade, I was beyond first grade. I could have gone to the second or third because I always would ask my siblings to teach me how to read, to teach me how to count, teach me how to write. I mean, I was doing all this stuff when I was 2 and 3 years old because I would see them studying. And this is what we need to get back to. We need to get back to our Black history, not this white man's Black history, because it's distorted and is not the truth. And that's why they don't want critical race theory taught. And that's why the public schools suck, because they're not educating. These children are coming out of school now, can't even read, they can't count, they can't even write a decent resume. They don't know anything about financing and investment. We have to teach our own children. That's how they're going to be educated and learn how to be productive human beings and carry generational wealth and legacy. We've gotten so far off base. And he talked about Harriet Tubman. We've gotten off base since that time. So, with that said, let me get back so we can wrap this up because I don't want to be too long, but I had to go in and give my perspective when I saw this symbolic celebrating Black history because that's what it is. It's about symbolism, and we've had enough of that. So let's get back to it.
He's a great guy. No, I watched him. He was a radical Democrat. He became a radical Republican, right? He's great. He's in the Department of Justice. Think of it, doing very important work at highest level. Also, Sage Steele. Sage, where are you? Hello, Sage. Great job you do. You're doing great. Thank you very much, Sage, for being here. Michael, Harry O. Harris. Michael. Hi, Michael. Thank you very much, Michael. Deontay Johnson. Deontay. Thank you, Deontay. Lynn Patton, she's worked for me for a long time. Lynn, she's worked for us for a long time. Bob Woodson, where's Bob? And we're also joined by seven-time Mr. Olympia. I want to see this guy. Phil Heath, where's Phil? Phil Heath, I don't want to compare my muscles. Here he is. Thank you, Phil, very much. I appreciate it. Will you come up here for a second? Come on, get up. I got to say, come on, you. From day one, right? From day one, he's been here. Get up, you got to say just a word. Don't fall. If you fall, it's all over. Tiger, you're not allowed to fall. You know, you can make a great speech, but if you fall going up, that's no good. Come on. You are great.
Are you kidding me? Mr. President, it has been an honor of a lifetime to support you, to try to wake up as many people to the lies of the Democrat Party and the nonstop manipulation of the mainstream media. That's why I now have my show on Newsmax, so I can champion you. And I'm thankful that we've been able to champion him and get him across the finish line for another amazing 4 years. And let me say, I know God has chose you. He anointed you for this position. He kept you alive so you could be here today. And we prayed for that. We prayed for you. We continue to pray for you. And we're thankful for your service and your sacrifice. Mr. President Donald J. Trump, honor. God bless you. Thank you.
From day one. I like those guys from day one. Tiger's been there from day one, too. Let me tell you, this guy is amazing. In 4 weeks, our new administration has achieved more than most administrations achieve in 4 years. We brought our country back. It's 4 weeks. Today is our 4th week. It's the end of the week. We are now starting our 5th, and I think we've done more in 4 weeks. Well, certainly than the last administration did in 4 years. They actually went negative. They actually went in the wrong direction. Together, we're going to be fighting long and hard for Black Americans and all Americans. We're going to be fighting for all Americans. We've secured our border, and we're stopping the invasion of our country. You know, our border right now is more secure than it's ever been. And we had the record. 4 years ago, we had the record. We had the lowest number in history, and now the numbers, Tim, are even lower than they were then. And we're honored. They were allowing people to come in from all over the world, from prisons and jails, mental institutions, insane asylums, gang members. They had drug dealers. They had everybody dropping in. And we had this ridiculous open border policy. They drop in. And I'll tell you, the people that were affected the most were Black people. You were affected the most in terms of the crime, in terms of the drugs and everything else. And we have the border shut down. We allow people to come in. We want people to come in, Tim, but we want them to come in legally. They're going to come through legally. So we're protecting American workers, including millions of Black workers. And we have a thing called reciprocal tariffs. If they charge us, we charge them. This is opening up. We just signed the bill, and we're going to take in billions and billions of dollars, and we're making our country very healthy again and very rich again. We want to be very rich again. We've been taken advantage by everybody, and you've been watching Doge, where we found billions, tens of billions of dollars of fraud and waste and abuse, and that's just the beginning. And Elon Musk has done an amazing job, I have to tell you. Him and his super geniuses, you know, these are seriously high IQ people, and nobody's going to talk them out of anything. They go in and they're finding billions. I mean, literally tens of billions of dollars that we just started, and I think that's going to have a big, big impact, Brooke, right? So we want to just really say, and I have to say to you, I look at this turnout, I look at the love in the room. This is just love in the room. And I remember the first time I did this, my first administration, one of my first meetings, there wasn't this large a crowd, Tiger. We had about 5 people in the front. We had maybe five black people right in the front, right about there. I said, is anybody else coming? Is this it? Are we open? I don't even think Tim Scott, I know Turner wasn't there. I don't think Tim Scott was there either. I'm not sure. But that's all changed, and we got the highest vote, and one of the big reasons I'm president today is because of the black vote, and and I always appreciate it. So this is a very special time. It's Black History Month. We love you all. We're going to work with you. We're going to make America greater than ever before. We're going to do it together. And I want to thank you all for being here. It's an incredible honor. And to my great golfing friends, I want to thank them in particular because they really are. They make a lot of money. They don't have to be up here with me. Tiger doesn't have to be here. Adam doesn't have to. They don't need this. But they love you and they love our country. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's stop and let's talk. Well, just a few more minutes. Now, he said, your president, Trump, said that black people put him in office. With that said, are you going to be the president that pay the debt? Because black people are owed that debt, and that debt is called reparations from our forefathers and foreparents who were forced to come over here. And more have been given to voluntary, illegal immigrants than given to black people, particularly in the state where I resided practically all my life, California. And I'm going to do some more about California and what Governor Newsom is not doing. With that said, again, I am about ready to close this out. And you mentioned about recommendations. Well, my recommendation to you, President Trump, is that you figure out how to pay the debt, reparations, to the descendants of slaves. And slaves, after the emancipation, were not lazy at all. And we know they weren't lazy during slavery because slaves started to build right here in America multiple towns with nothing. And we talk about Oklahoma, the 1921 massacre, Tulsa, Oklahoma. That wasn't the only one. Do your homework, do your research, and you will find out that there are multiple black towns that were thriving. But because of white jealousy and what black people had taken with nothing and built, they tore it down. They killed over 300 people in Tulsa, Oklahoma with the government's help. And some of those people, I believe, a few may still be living. I know there were a few still living from that 1921 massacre where white people became somewhat like they were on January 6th in Tulsa, Oklahoma, just destroyed a thriving black town where black people had built because of how white people treated black people during after slavery. So this, to me, was symbolic, and it really didn't provide Black history the way it should have been. But of course, we understand why, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, President Trump said that Tim Scott, who is a Black senator from South Carolina, and I have heard him speak to, and I'm surprised they didn't have Larry Elder there, who ran for governor of California and didn't win. Rightfully, he should not have won. So we need to, as Black people, I'm just going to leave you pretty much with this because I think I have spoken enough on this particular celebration in the White House of Black History Month. We have pretty much $2 trillion going through our hands annually. And what are we doing to help ourselves? Because we're all we have, as you can see. This has been going on for almost 500 years, and this country is more divided now than ever. And a lot of our Black people are bamboozled, blindsided, and we must wake up and see what we are doing, our own inappropriate behaviors, how we are hating on one another, the self hate, the killing of one another. We have to stop those behaviors. They're inappropriate. They're not going to help us get the legacy and the generational wealth that we are deserving of when we can help ourselves as well. Not to say we don't deserve that reparations. And that's one of the recommendations that we need to be concerned about during this term of President Trump, since he said make some recommendations and he wants to help the Black people who have been treated worse than anybody and who are the only people that have been held in chattel slavery in America. So let's stop depending on government crumbs to take care of us. And reparations will not be crumbs because there's a long debt that's owed. But at this point, many of us are depending on government crumbs to take care of us. We're not using our critical thinking skills to elevate ourselves. And that is my goal why I started this podcast, to support and help our people to elevate us to a higher level of consciousness so that we can have that legacy and that generational wealth and never allow our children to forget our history. We have to know our own history. That's why it's important to teach our own children, because this educational system does suck. And I know he's talking about dismantling it. It needs to be revamped. I agree with him on that. I agree with him on the deportation because these illegals were coming over here living in luxury, and there were veterans, Black veterans, white veterans, other veterans, the few others who did serve. Some of them are homeless, particularly Black veterans. They don't even have homes. They're living on the streets. And in Los Angeles, Skid Row is horrifying. The mental health system is horrifying. The medical industry is horrifying. That's why a lot of doctors and nurses are quitting. So we need to tell the truth and talk about the real history of America. Excuse me. So again, my fellow Black people, let's start spending that money wisely to build. As Dr. King was talking about, we have to organize. We have to build. We organize, we learn, we build. He talked about that in one of his most profound speeches. Organize, learn, build, and we need these. We need educational institutions. We need financial institutions. We need medical institutions. We need manufacturing industries. We don't own anything. Collectively, we as Black people don't own anything. And we have to start taking accountability and responsibility for our own economy. That's important. We need economic stability. And we have to start using that $2 trillion wisely, spend it wisely, come together collectively, unify. And for all of these other people out here, these celebrities, these corrupt politicians that are self-serving, you can't not look to them for help because you're not going to get it. I look in LA, go to some of these districts that Black representatives, and you look around and you see what's going on there. I live there. And you have Black elected officials running some of these districts. And you go and you look and you wonder, where's their mindset? Where are the people's mindset? What are you doing to help elevate yourself and stop depending on these government crumbs? And I always tell you this scripture. Let's start flipping the script, flipping the scripture. And that one I love, 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And we have to start using that brilliant mind, use those critical thinking skills that we've been given, and come together, put that unity back in community, and let's build. Let's organize, learn, build. That's so important. And I thank you, Dr. King, for that brilliant speech. And you can hear that on my podcast. However, sometimes these copyrights get in the way of utilizing content that we should be able to use because there is a copyright disclaimer. But you got to deal with YouTube and a lot of things they don't want you to hear. They want to censor it. That's why it's so important to do your own research and your own due diligence so you will know your history. And you will know that 1776, the American Revolutionary War, where some slaves, not all of them, were allowed to fight in that war based on promises of freedom. And it was a big lie because they did not get the promise of freedom. And if we had so much freedom, why are we so divided? Why did we have to do the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which hasn't worked, obviously, because we're still out here fighting for that liberty that's supposed to be guaranteed to all. But at 74, I can tell you that's a big lie, too. And the fact the Constitution was drafted in 1787 and coined us as not even a whole person because we were property. So when we celebrate Black History Month, like I celebrate it every day, 365 days of the year. And when there's a leap year, of course, it's 366. I believe in celebrating my history and my ancestors every day of the year. And we are all we have again. And with that said, just remember, your power lies within you. Let it loose because your destiny is your command. And again, I'm Louise Hicks, the host of this podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Please share, 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 subscribe, 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 thumbs up, give it a like. And by all means, leave your comments. What are your thoughts on this symbolic celebration of Black history by President Trump and his followers, the MAGA people? So until next time, see you in the next video. Much love.